Hi, you guys. Welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and I'm trying to figure out where to put my clicker because I have a mess of stuff in front of me to share with you guys. So, I got tagged by Crystal over at Ricola Crochet and stuff, or that's not her channel name anymore. Is it? No. I will leave her channel tag down below. In the crochet hook tag. Whoa. So, before I get started on answering the questions, first off, I'd like to go ahead and tag Joe over at Joe's Web, Terry over at Yarn Joy, and Erica over at TLC, The Lopsided Crafter. So, this is all about our hook preferences. I am going to add in some tidbits about knitting as well, because I also have a lot of thoughts on knitting needles also. So, what is your favorite brand of hook? If you guys have been with me for at least the last 6 months, you may have already heard me state I am 100% a Clover Amour hook girl. And it has to do with the way I hold my hook. So, once again, I'm sorry we're doing the table thing again. Hopefully I will be able to sit down to film starting next week, but please bear with the wiggly table and stuff. So, these are Clover Amours. I just brought down the 2 hooks. I will also pop in a picture here of my hook stand that I 3D printed that I keep on my desk upstairs. You will see a lot of the green handle. And this is going to come up. I use a lot of the 5.5 size I hook. But the way I crochet, I pinch and then kind of loosely drape these 2 fingers over my hook and use my pinky finger to kind of guide. So the tension is really only on the back side of my hand, if at all. And I hold the weight of my project in my left hand. So this is really the only style of hook that is very comfortable for me to use for an extended period of time. Now, I am not a huge fan of plastic hooks. While they do reduce weight in hooks, I find that they're sticky and slow me down. I'm not a fan. However, the Clover Amour hook is very, very smooth. As you can see, there's no texture on the shaft of it or around the head. They're very well made. They don't have any burrs up here at all. So if I have to use a larger hook, I am perfectly fine using the Clover Amour hook. And the grip is still, it's perfectly fine for the way I hold my work as I'm going with both style of hook. The flat piece here gives me a perfect place to rest my hand. Now, I have tried other versions of hooks similar to these, like the Amazon knockoffs and stuff, and I can't stand them. They drag. This has almost like a similar feeling to like a Teflon coating on the metal shaft. It's very, very smooth. It glides perfectly through all the stitches, and I'm very fast with these hooks. I really, really love these hooks. The knockoffs, not so much. So I am very, very picky. I do use the Honey web browser extension. And if I can find a referral code for that, I will leave that link down below as well. I will save these on my wish list on Amazon in the sets. And that way I've purchased 3 sets now for under $20. So yes, my favorite hook, hands down, is the Clover Amour. Now, for knitting needles, my hands down favorite is ChiaoGoo. So I did finally invest in the interchangeable needle set and some extra cables on top. But this is what the interchangeable set looks like. I have a whole bunch of the fixed circulars. Once again, the joins on these with the interchangeable as well as the fixed circular is exceptionally smooth. So I really do love these. But not only that, I find that the stainless that they're made out of glides perfectly. I'm very, very fast with these. Let's see, on the back of the packet, it says made of surgical grade stainless steel, precisely machined tips and joins, flexible multi-strand nylon coated memory-free steel cable, permanently laser marked needle size, ergonomically designed to prevent hand fatigue. So I do really prefer, even my interchangeables are the slightly shorter size. I do really like the shorter, I got small hands, so I do like the smaller size of these. But when you look at the join, that is a very, very smooth join. This is the size 5. I just finished a project with these this morning, so these were out. But there's no snag here, and you can see, even though I just pulled it out of the package, there's no curl in the cable. Now, I have tried a couple of knockoff versions of these, like the old Craftsy ones. Those are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I think they're a little bit slower than these are, but these are hands down my go-to knitting needles. I will probably discuss some of the other ones that I have either at the end or by the time I'm done with this video, but hands down, they're fast, they're smooth, they're easy on the hands. I don't have any tingling, knotting, any issues with that with these needles. So ChiaoGoo is where I go for my knitting needles, and that is 100% the fault of the shop owner at Woolly Wagtails in Washagal, Washington. I was up there a couple years ago for my birthday, and I got some beautiful birthday yarn while I was there, and I was telling her I had only used the Addies. Now, Addies they're beautiful needles, but they are very expensive. And after having tried these, not only are they a little bit less expensive, but I actually like these better than the Addi Turbos. I'm not a huge fan of the square needles. If they work for you, that is great. They like the collage square needles. I can't remember what brand is that. Knitter's Pride or something. The cable on those is a plastic coating or a plastic cable, and they're beautiful. They're great. I just don't like the way they feel in my hand, and I wish I did, because I keep hearing how ergo those are for other people, but they just don't work well for me. My favorite size crochet hook is definitely the I, which is the 5.5 millimeter. It's just because I use a lot of worsted weight yarn. It's not, yeah. It has nothing to do with like that size specifically. It's just, it's the right size for Vanna's Choice, Premier Anti-Pilling. This is the Peyton's Canadiana collection, Knit Picks, Brava. Like that, you can tell looking at my yarn wall, everything from here down to the last 2 cubes are all worsted weight, and there's still some worsted weight down at the end. I just use a lot of worsted weight yarn. So that's my go-to hook size, and I have probably 8 of the Amore hooks in the size 5.5 millimeter. With the knitting needles, I generally use a 7. So US size 7. Do you prefer tapered or inline? I prefer tapered. The way I hold my hook and work, I am able to scoop very easily. If I use an inline hook, the breadth at the neck, actually, let's see if I've got one here. The breadth at the neck tends to snag my yarn and split it. So if you're having issues with splitting and you hold your hook in a knife or modified knife style, you might want to try changing from a inline hook to a tapered hook. But you can see the breadth of this, I'll catch my yarn right here on the edge, and it doesn't loop through. It just splits. I don't enjoy it. Another thing that I'm very picky about with my hooks is I really like the pointed head. To me, this is much easier for me to get in the hole of my crochet, glide in, glide out, glide in, glide out. And with the blunter heads, I can't, and I end up splitting the stitches that way too. So I am 100% a tapered with a very pokey head girl. I also prefer very pointed knitting needles. I like a nice smooth point on my knitting needles. How do you grip your hook? Knife or pencil? I use a modified knife. I don't pinch hard here. I gently hold my hook, drape my fingers over, and work like this. And I do rotate just ever so slightly over to where the hook is facing me, because once again, I can go in, through, in, through, in, through much easier. It's a much quicker motion for me. And I actually hold my knitting needle very similar to how I hold my crochet hook. Number 5, does the style of hook dictate how you crochet? No. The crochet hook I choose is dependent on how I crochet. It's the other way around for me. I can pencil grip a hook and do this. It's very fatiguing for me. I have to put a lot more pressure on my hand because I've got tension here. I've got tension across this finger, and I've got tension across this finger to maintain even tension as I'm working. For me, that's just not at all comfortable. It fatigues my hand very quickly, even if I change my style of hook. Now, I love things like my Lether hooks. These are gorgeous. The head on these are the Amore hook style. They're great hooks. If I pencil gripped, this would be fine. But the way I hold my hook, I don't really have a place to comfortably rest my hand. So actually, the style of hook I buy is wholly dependent on how I hold my crochet. I have been crocheting since I was 5, so I've actually been crocheting now for 32 years. And it's been trial and error, learning how to hold things and what's comfortable for me. And the more I crochet, the more I've discovered how to do it for me to where I can get the most time crafting before my hands, shoulder, elbow, and wrists all fatigue. Number 6, do you prefer Ergo hooks or regular hooks? Obviously, Ergo. You get a lot more time crafting. Now, these are not the first Ergo hooks I had tried. The first ones I ever tried actually were the Boy, where's a larger size here? Boy Crochet Dude hooks. And these were the first ones I fell in love with. And I found a bunch at Tuesday Morning on sale. I found them at Joann's when they clearanced these out. These are pretty old. Let's find one that's... So you can look at the original ones and they have the Crochet Dude on there. And if you're not familiar with Drew Ambrosky, like, go check out his patterns because he is a brilliant structural design person. But this is the exact same style. It's just not branded as the Crochet Dude. I was able to make do with the double flat edge for a long time and make this work. However, now that I'm used to the Amore hooks, I've been using those completely now for like probably, let's see, 2, 4, 6 to 8 years. Those have been exclusively what I've used now. I can't really go back to these at this point, but these do have, you know, they're the right shape. They're pokey, not quite as pokey as my Amores, but they do have, you know, a pointier head on them. They're just not for me. They're just not as comfortable as the Amore hooks. Once again, I do like the rounding with the flat. It gives me a better position to rest my hands in. But these also are a lot stickier than the Clover Amore. They have a lot more drag on them. No matter how much you clean them, they just have more drag. So once again, the Amore hook is just worth the money for me. What are your thoughts on light up hooks? So I have one light up hook in my stash, and it's this one. This is a size I, 5.5 millimeter. I've had this for a few years now. I don't have a problem with it other than it's plastic and it's slow. And the shape is not quite comfortable for my hand. This is more similar to what it's the tulips, where it's the flat design with a little rubber grip. It was okay to work with. I used this specifically for a trip. You know, the battery in it's dead. I knew I was going to be we were going to be driving from Columbia, South Carolina to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And we were going to be starting our trip overnight because it was summertime and nobody wants to drive through Atlanta, hot Atlanta, in the summer during rush hour. So we timed our trip to where we would miss Atlanta's rush hour traffic and drove through the night. And we stopped at just north of Biloxi for the night. So I knew, like, as we were taking turns switching out driving, that I was going to be crocheting in the car at night. So I wanted to be able to not distract the driver, obviously. And so I did get this. It was fine. I didn't have a problem with it, other than it's just not my preferred way to do it. If you want to light up your work while you're working on it, I do recommend a night or a neck light. If you can handle just lightweight around your neck, there is a way to cock it back on your shoulders to where the battery pack is between your shoulders and not resting on the back of your neck. I would recommend you doing that instead of trying to spend your money on light up hooks. If you don't mind plastic hooks, that's fine. But I didn't think the light was bright enough to warrant buying a set. Like I said, I just have the one, and I used it for a couple of projects. I've used it on flights and things like that, but no, I'm not a huge fan. I don't think for the cost, the payoff is really well. The batteries die very quickly, much, much quicker than having a neck light or even like the little Energizer headlamp or something. I was not, yeah, I wish I liked these more. I'm just not very happy with them. For the cost, the payoff, and then having to replace the batteries constantly. And my understanding is with a lot of the rechargeable ones, because I do have a friend that has a rechargeable set. She said hers, the battery only lasts for about an hour, 2 hours of crochet time after the first like month of using them regularly. So even with hers, she's not getting the time payoff to make it worth having the interchangeable set with the battery pack. Number 8, have you ever used a hook with interchangeable heads? If so, what's your thoughts? I have not found one I liked. I know in theory, they're fine. I've had 2 different sets over the years, and I didn't. Once again, my motion as I crochet is to go into the stitch and bring it through, in, bring it through, and bring it through. So there's a rocking motion in the way I crochet. And for me, the interchangeable hooks were coming undone. I had one that was a total screw in, just like the ChiaoGoo interchangeable knitting needles. I've also had the kind where it slides in and locks, snaps in place, kind of more like the Darice interchangeable hooks. I did not have the Darice brand ones, so that could be part of the problem. But the ones that I did have, they would lock in place. I could get, 2 or 3 rows on a blanket, and the weight of the blanket would unpop the hook head. So I've not had very good luck with those. Now, knitting needles, on the other hand, I have had excellent luck with interchangeables. So I actually have 3 sets of interchangeable knitting needles that I use 2 regularly now. One I've kind of retired out. So the first ones I want to discuss here are the Knitter Pride Zings. These are a little bit more cost effective theoretically than the ChiaoGoo, which I've already shown you. I do not like the Knitter's Pride cables. I do recommend buying the Knit Picks cables if you want to use one of the Knitter's Pride sets of needles. I think the cable's just a little bit more pliant, a little bit more bendy. These are the hard plastic cables. So I don't like their cables, but I do like their needles. These stay tight just fine. I knitted most of a sweater last year using these. This set has slightly duller tips than the ChiaoGoos, which is actually, liking these is why I went ahead and bought the ChiaoGoo set, because I knew I loved those. But I do use the Zing sets. It's not retired out. I still use those quite a bit. Obviously, I use my ChiaoGoo because those are my #1 go-to needles. But the other ones I have is this old interchangeable boy set. And this is the one, you see it at Hobby Lobby and Joann's and Michael's all the time. I've gotten much love and wear out of these. I just graduated to a better style. And I hate to say it that way, but it was definitely graduating to a better style for me. I've got a couple sets where the tip wear is really strong on these. Now these, I had no problem with the cable staying in, but these have a really bad join on the cable, which is one of the reasons why I retired them. You've got this huge bulbous nodule right here, and that can cause your yarn to snag. And then the join between the metal and the plastic, I don't know if you can see where my fingernail's like skipping over that join, but it's just not a smooth join. And you can see there's a lot of memory in the cables, so you do have to store them not wound up tight. You have to store them like they're meant to be stored in the packaging. I got many, many years of use out of these though. So if you are new to knitting, take your 50% off coupon and buy one of these. If you really, really just need a cost-effective option. I would recommend going with the Zings if you want a better set just to start off with, or the Knit Picks needles are also really, really good. I prefer nickel just because I'm not a huge fan of the wood needles. They slow me down too much, but the wood ones are fine too. They've got a beautiful, they're very well made. They're very polished wood, and the coating on them makes them slide through your work easier. But I still am a metal person. So I would go with the nickel needles from Knit Picks. This is a great cost-effective option if price is really the most important thing to you. Then I would go up to like Knitter's Pride, and they do have more expensive sets that are better, like the carbons and stilettos and things like that. But I wanted something with a slightly less pokey tip when I bought these, so that's actually one of the reasons why I bought these. And then if you just want the creme de la creme, for me, that would be ChiaoGoo. Do you like projects that require small stainless steel hooks or larger? I am a middle of the road gal. I have lots of giant hooks. I never use these. I use them occasionally to make like scrap baskets and stuff, but I never really reach for projects that use giant hooks. And I have even bigger hooks and needles than this. But I am very middle of the road when it comes to my hook and needle size. The smallest hook I willingly use is generally a D. Now, I have done more thread work with knitting. I find it easier to see the stitches, more comfortable to work on for extended periods of time if I'm knitting tiny yarn on with tiny needles than I do crocheting tiny yarn. So I don't do a lot of doily work and things like that involve like stainless steel. I do have a set of stainless steel hooks. I just don't use them very much. It's a very rare occasion. I think I've maybe used a stainless once in the last 10 years. So I really stick to D to K is where I stay with my hooks. Now, I have actually knit things using a 000 needle before. So, and I really didn't mind. It was a tedious project because it took forever to see progress, but it really wasn't a bad project to work on. It wasn't something where I was just like frustrated because the needles were so tiny, but not something even then I go for. Socks I do on ones or 1s to 2.5 is generally where I sit with even sock knitting. So I normally don't work with 0 and below, even in knitting, but I do a lot more fingering weight, tight texture knitting than I do tiny texture or tiny stitch knitting. And both knitting and crochet, I find it just fatiguing. This is one of the reasons why I don't use bulky yarn a lot. I love to finish projects quickly, but it's just more fatiguing for me to hold on to a big hook or a big needle to work on a project. Number 10, if you were only allowed to use 2 hooks for the rest of your life, what would they be, brand and size? It would be a 5.5 Clover Moore and probably a G, which is, I didn't bring a G hook down. Do I have a G in here? Knitting needles. Oh, that's J. $4mm. So I have discovered I do like using fingering weight yarn with a G hook. So I might stick with a G and an I would probably be what I go to. This is another of my many collections. Once again, but there's nothing to hold on to for me. There's just no way to grip that hook. Knitting needles. That's a little bit harder because I do use a wider range. Like I just finished a project that used a 4 and a 5. I'm currently working on a project that uses a 10. So it is harder with knitting. I would probably have to say, once again, ChiaoGoo. I'll stick to ChiaoGoo. Probably a size 7 and a size 4. It's almost similar to the crochet. But yeah, so before I get off of here, that answers all the questions. And once again, I am tagging Erica, Terry, and Joe. So you guys, I'll have the questions linked down below. But I did want to talk to you guys about my years of collections here. So I've shown you guys my knitting needles. I've inherited straight boy needles and things like that. Those aren't nearly as exciting, but I have a couple of these. And like I said, you know, I've got the steel hooks. I just don't use them. This is a boy set. And I think this is, I've got 3 of these cases. 2, I think I've built myself. This is the one that I was gifted for like, it was on clearance for $5. And I think one of my stepkids gifted it to me. This is going to have to change at some point, but I have this big pink art bin box here. And I have, you know, bamboo hooks that are cheap. I'm pretty sure these came off of Amazon or eBay at some point. Never really used those and liked them. These are, I believe, boy. And these were part of the Exotic Woods collection. Another one here. This is one that lost its end. I do have a couple of the boy. You definitely tell I used a lot more boy over the years. Tunisian hooks in here. That's just another boy aluminum. These are Lion brand. I've got my light up hook. I do have a couple of Susan Bates Tunisian. And then I've got this case, which used to be my go-to. This used to live by my sofa seat on the table. And this was just my collection of the Crochet Dude boy hooks. And these used to be go-to. I've got a couple of the Exotic Woods collection, you know. But all of these now permanently live in the craft room on a bookcase. Rarely touched. I do keep a hook gauge in every case that I can, just in case I need to measure something that's unmarked. I do have a lot of unmarked hooks from over the years. I have 3 Lether hooks and a couple polymer clay hooks. I have not decided what I'm going to do with these yet. Since I can't use them, I hate to keep them, but at the same time, they're so pretty. But yeah, like, that's my collection, plus the one, you know, I showed you my Amore hooks and my 3D printed pencil holder that I made for my desk. So, and I've got 2 books of the Amore hooks all together because I bought 3 sets over the years on clearance. So, or not clearance, but like the Amazon deal of the day markdowns. I've gotten them under $20 most of the time. They do regularly go on sale for under $25 in the US though. So keep an eye out on that. Something like a web browser extension like Honey is an excellent way to keep up with like your wish list of things, and you can set it to where you want it to let you know when it goes 50% off or more, which is what I generally do because I'm cheap. I'm cheap. I won't lie. I'm cheap. I like my sale prices. Talking a lot, getting thirsty. So yeah, that is the 10 questions about your hook preferences. This is the hook questions on my little printout. But yeah, I have a wide assortment of things, but I really primarily just use ChiaoGoo and more. I'll be honest, over time, I've just gotten to where that's what I use. That's what I'm most comfortable with. It suits my style the best. My style is not the best style, though. That is 100% based on you and your preferences and what makes crafting the most comfortable for you. So bear that in mind as you're listening to these. You know, you're going to hear a lot of different opinions and options out there, and there's nothing wrong with that. So you guys take care. As always, I love you, and I hope to see you guys real soon. Bye, guys.